What's going on, guys? Chad CRC back with you. Today I want to talk about kind of a controversial topic, and that is the topic of clones and cloning frames and electronics and batteries and all that kind of stuff. And I figure I spent enough money and I've been in this hobby long enough to have kind of an opinion about this whole thing, and I see all of these discussions and blow-ups on Facebook about everything, so I figured I would just give my take on the whole thing. Maybe there's 100 or 200 of you out there that'll watch this that will agree, disagree, whatever. That's cool. So I'm going to break the whole discussion down into two different categories: electronics and frames. And I want to start with the whole frame thing first because it's the hottest topic right now, and that is the clone that has came out of Oh My God Tommy from Rotor Riot's remix frame. Now, I think there's just a small percentage of people that are just going to buy cheap frames and stuff anyway. I think there's a percentage of people that have bought a cheap frame like that and bought a higher quality name brand frame and won't ever buy a junk frame again. And then I think there's the people that, the majority, 70-80% of the people out there, that are just never going to buy that stuff in general. They're always going to buy the best product. Now, I have owned and still fly a Martian 2. I've never owned an actual Alien. I've always wanted to. I do have a Reverb on the way. I've enjoyed the Martian 2, but I'm not a dummy. I know that this thing is junk compared to an Alien frame. I've touched an Alien. I've held one. It just feels great. The carbon feels good. The hardware is nice. Everything about it is just premium. My Tokyo XL that I got from Mike, it's a premium frame. The chamfered edges are just great. They're beautiful. So when I see people talking about, oh, this is going to like really hurt our sales and we're never going to sell these frames again, and the frame competition is so tough anyway that we can't have these guys cloning our frames, I just think it's just pie in the sky stuff. I mean, there is just a small percentage of people that are never going to buy that stuff. They're always going to buy the cheap stuff, and I think there's nobody that is going to say, I have my heart set on buying a remix, and then see that there is a clone of that frame available at half the price, that in their right mind thinks that it's going to be anywhere close to the quality of the original product that is designed. It's just foolishness to think that way. Also, just want to talk about the whole money aspect. Now, I'm not no business guy or anything. I'm in healthcare. I do have my MBA, and I've studied a lot of different things as far as business and everything goes. I'm intrigued by a lot of things. And we talk about like the cost of doing business and the actual cost of, like, say, profit and everything in $100 frame. Now, I understand that, like, there's money and investment and stuff that goes into these frames, that they have to spend the money on the carbon and cut them out and try the prototypes and this and that and everything else. And maybe after they sell their first 500 or 1,000, they hit that plateau. They probably hit that black a lot faster than that. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. But look, these guys they're not buying commercial time on ESPN to sell a frame. We're not buying Super Bowl commercials to sell these things. The cost of this stuff is nothing. You send a couple of these frames out to people on Facebook, and all of a sudden everybody sells it. How much did it cost for Chad to do the Impulse RC launch video for the Reverb? I mean, he did it at his home. I don't really think it cost Chad much of anything to promote that frame, and the sales, from what I understand, have been through the roof, and that's great. Anytime that you can get away with not spending tons of money on advertising and all of that kind of stuff, and you have a person of his stature that's willing to put his name out there on the frame and take a little bit off the top for his time and his dedication to developing that awesome product, is great, and everybody should benefit of it the same way that Tommy is doing. But to think that you're only that the profit margins on a frame are only $5 or $10, and because there's this huge cost of production and doing business, I mean, I would really like to see that data. I just don't buy it. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. I think, we know where I stand. I'm on the side of the non-cloner people because, I don't want to see the industry get hurt and stuff. I just think a lot of the arguments that they make are just kind of false and overinflated. And, you're never going to reach everybody anyway. Like I said, there's always going to be those small people that are cheap and that are going to buy this stuff right here and be just as happy with it. They don't really understand quality. They don't care about quality. And I mean, geez, look what I have on this thing. I have an Eagle 2 Pro. I have Mr. Steel Motors, TBS Crossfire, Menace Pagoda, Dow Props, 3D Brain Mount. So it's not like this is some cheap investment here. I mean, when it's all said and done, this is still a $300 to $400 machine. The micro game is a lot different. I mean, they just pimp these things out like crazy. I mean, there is so many micros out there now. Like, I know this Baby Hawk is going to be awesome, is going to be a winner, and that's why I finally pulled the trigger and got excited about a micro. But like all of the different diatones and this and that and everything else, like there's people that just love to buy that stuff, and I think the only reason why they just buy it is because it's all they can afford. They're perfectly happy with spending $100, $150 and getting like a stack and 4 motors and all this other stuff, and they just keep doing it over and over and over. So, whatever, when it comes to the micros and everything, that's just a whole different discussion, I guess, too. So let's talk about electronics. More specifically, let's talk about VTXs. Now, I use primarily TBS Unifies. I love the Unifies, and I love TBS products, Trappy and them. I totally support those guys and everything that they're about and what they do. But I've had just as many Unifies blow up on me as I have knockoff video transmitters. The only difference, which I have mentioned this in another video before, is that TBS is willing to help you out when it comes to electronics. Electronics are a whole different ball game compared to like this frame. So when someone clones something with smart audio, and if you buy it off of, say, Amazon, once your 30-day return policy ends with Amazon, you're pretty much out of luck. If your Unify blows up on you or something like that 2 or 3 months down the road, and it's not like an obvious thing that you did, I'm pretty sure that TBS is going to hook you up as far as, maybe a half off replacement cost or something like that. They've done stuff like that for me before with the steel motors. They've done that with recently with one of my Crossfire transmitters that I ripped the UFL connector off of. So that's kind of like your own game, what you want to do. I got a stack, DYS. DYS is a great company, right? I love the DYS flight controller, the F4 board, but I've got a pile of them, 3 or 4 of them, that have just died. Maybe 1 or 2 will stretch it. Was my fault over soldering and resoldering connections and stuff. But I literally had one that lasted 1 battery pack. I landed, it went to take off, and it was dead. Poof. Flight Test Store, Rotor Riot, immediately refunded my money. They didn't even ask a question, which was awesome, and probably because they know that a lot of people had those issues too. And I'm guessing that they probably had some kind of a redo or something like that on that board, because the board was out of stock for months, and finally it's starting to pop back up. And I really want to get one because I love the layout of the board, how everything's on top. It's got all the extra transmitter and receive UARTs just kind of set up so you can do Crossfire, smart audio, and a GPS, like all right there on the board. And even with some of my newer stuff like my Joshua Bardwell F4 flight controller. I mean, you could do all that stuff, but you have to go in and reassign UARTs and commands and stuff in the CLI, and that's just a pain in the butt. Like, who wants to do all that stuff? So I guess it comes down to my opinion. When you buy the electronic portions of this actual hobby, I mean, it's kind of like buy at your own risk. Like, if you don't buy like a TBS VTX or Crossfire, I mean, I guess the FreeSky stuff's all right if that's your thing. But if you go with like this knockoff type of like that Tango remote that they made, it's not even a Tango, it's just a plastic remote that's in like a Tango case with no screen or anything like that. Like, why would anybody even want to buy that? And why would we, as like people who like to buy cool stuff, why would Trappy even care about that? He should almost be flattered that they stole his design, that they copied his design. But there's nothing about that is a Tango at all, except for how it looks. There's no video screen. There's no Crossfire hookup to that thing. I mean, it can't do what the original Tango can do. So it's like, it's almost laughable. It's like, let these guys just do their stuff and we'll keep on making our own cool stuff. And I really hope that's kind of what the attitude that people just kind of gravitate towards, instead of kind of like belly aching about, oh, it's tough with our manufacturers, it's tough with this and that. And we know it's all just horrible shade. If you want cheap stuff and you're going to make it in China, it's just what you're going to have to deal with. I mean, I think Kebab FPV proved that with his undercover discussions to some Chinese people that he was talking about with. Backdoor deals, no matter how good of a relationship Company A might have with Company B in China, there is always somebody in Company B out there looking to take Company A's design, sell it out the back door, and then never show up again. So you're just up against a battle that just can't be won. So you just got to figure out how to play the game. The stuff can be cut and made and designed here in America. I mean, I don't want this turning into like a pro USA type of deal, but I just find it hard to believe with like all of the machining and the technology and the products and stuff that we have, that we can't make this thing or sacrifice profits a little bit if you're worried about protecting your design and how much money that you're going to make. It doesn't mean a company can't buy a frame and still take it and copy it, but at least it leaves all that other stuff out of the equation that we don't have to sit here and like speculate on. So just to wrap it up, electronics, yeah, you're probably going to get screwed over. So it's like, buy the good electronics. Definitely buy from the people that are going to take care of you. Flight Test, Rotor Riot, TBS, those kind of people. When it comes to this frame stuff, it's just like, man, there's so many frames that are out there now anyway. It's just crazy. If somebody said that they really took 6 months to a year to design a frame, then you're like falling behind, man, because there's companies that are banging out 2 or 3 frames a month. So I guess it's kind of like where your priorities at and what you want to actually deliver. And this game changes so fast that the motors and the flight characteristics of a frame that you designed 6 months ago aren't really going to be what is attractive to everybody 6 months in the future. So maybe this just kind of will change and this whole format will change, and I'm just rambling anyway. So that's my opinions. Tell me what you think. I mean, am I way off or what? I mean, I think, like I said, I think there's people that are going to do it no matter what. There's people that are going to kind of buy it once and then say never again. And I still think that the 75 to 80% of the people out there that are going to be like, that remix looks hot, that's what I'm buying. That Tokyo looks hot, that's what I'm buying. That reverb looks hot, that's what I'm buying. And they're not even going to look at that stuff. So that's it. Peace out.